while you're over there?
Some candy. I have some Japanese candies.
Perfect.
For later.
Bring
some
mine.
grape gummies that were delicious.
Ooh.
Like little balls of wine.
Grape?
Grape, yeah.
Purple. Love it. The studio
Dinner.
is lit beautifully in honor of Mamba Day.
Nice.
So purple, gold, we got it all.
I didn't have any golden candies, but I guess you're right, golden medals, your jacket also.
Yeah, we've got it all covered. We will certainly have all the videos, highlights, all those things throughout the show today to celebrate Mamba Day, that is. But first, we dive into the NBA schedule, which was released last week. And here's a look at how things get started for the purple and gold. One thing that stands out, guys, the Lakers have a bunch of home games to start the season. 7 of their first 10, to be exact, are at Staples Center. But hey, if you take it one step further, 12 of their first 15 are at home in front of the home crowd. Nice bulk, if you will. You think about Russell being back home. You know, the fans are going to love that. Not a bad way to start. Dan?
No, I mean, I think you get tested defensively right off the bat, which I think is the biggest question this team is going to face. Is sort of they've got a lot of offensive talent. That seems to be the direction that they steered this offseason, was like, let's get better on offense. So let's see how they guard, you know, and you're going to get tested by the Warriors, you're going to get tested by the Suns, and then the schedule lightens up a little bit, and you get time to kind of find yourself. And I know for me personally, I would rather a more home front-loaded schedule, ease your way into the season a little bit, and kind of figure out who you are, so that, you know, come December, come January, when you're like in the teeth of it, you can rely a little bit more on things like continuity. Getting these guys together is going to be the most important thing, and if you can learn while win, all the better.
Dan, I don't think you could have said it any better. I mean, a team like the Lakers, so many new faces, 11 new people potentially if they fill out the roster to all 15. You need time together. You need time at home. You need time against bad teams. And after the Warriors and the Suns start the season, they go 15 days before potentially playing another possible playoff team at Portland. If they win those first 2 games, both at Staples Center against Phoenix and Golden State, they potentially could be 9-0 before going to Portland. We know over the years it's been kind of a trick spot for them. That's not an easy game, but they could really start off well with a lot of home cooking.
Okay, so according to Caesars Sportsbook, they have the Lakers at 51.5, so 52 wins on the season. I dare you to go lower, but I'm asking, would you go higher? When you think about that, 52 wins, to me it doesn't seem like a lot, but 30 losses seems like a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a weird West, and I think the Lakers are a weird roster too, like in a fun way, like because of how different they are. It's hard to really know what we're walking into. The Warriors are going to look totally different, right? Klay Thompson, first-round draft picks. They're going to be weird. Are the Suns as good as they were last year, or were they sort of this, you know, pandemic anomaly? I don't know. I don't know about Denver. I don't know what Dallas is going to look like. You know, Portland, I think, maybe got worse.
Yeah, what are they?
Yeah, you know, is Utah ready to like really kind of be that type of team? I don't know that there is a clear front runner, so it does seem sort of like parity is going to be the thing in the West, and you're going to see those teams a lot more. In the East, I feel pretty good about who I think the 2 best teams are. I think it's Milwaukee and Brooklyn, and I feel pretty confident that Brooklyn would have the best record. I think the Lakers will have the best record in the West, but I would bet almost anything that'll be worse than whatever the best record in the East is. I just think that the competition is tighter and there's too many questions.
Yeah, 1 through 6 in the West after the regular season, it might only be a few game separation. It might be one of those types of seasons where there's just a lot of stuff at the top, a lot of teams kind of fighting for playoff.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, a lot of playoff jockeying and that type of thing. I would go over on this, and here's why. If it was still LeBron and AD and last year's roster, if one of those 2 guys gets hurt, it's trouble. Now, with Russell Westbrook in the fold, much easier time for the Lakers if one of their big 2 gets hurt. And yes, I'm calling Russ number 3 in this situation.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's true. I mean, you got to defer to the guys who've been here for a couple years and won a championship together. And Russ, you're the new guy. And if one of those guys goes down, I still think they will be over 51.5.
I think adding Westbrook too will force this team to care a lot in the regular season, because they're going to have to play with energy and with continuity and stuff like that. And a lot of regular season success, like, sadly, is just how much do you care.
Yep.
And these teams have cared under Frank Vogel. He's done a very good job with that, getting them kind of invested in the regular season, playing hard. Even though last year was a total slog, before LeBron and Anthony Davis got hurt, like, they were in a good position. They were playing really hard on the defensive side of the basketball. They don't have the same kind of players this year, but I think because of the additions, because they've got stuff to work through, I think they'll play with a lot of attention and energy early, and that's sort of the key to a good regular season record.
I'm still stuck on the way in which you described what's ahead, weird and fun. Kind of like our panel today. I'll take the weird.
I was going to say, I can handle the weird if that's
I got
necessary.
the weird.
Okay.
You guys are the fun. Let's continue to talk the roster, because who else could the Lakers add before the season starts? Well, Jay Michael of the Indianapolis Stars reporting that the Lakers are among multiple teams interested in Pacers guard Jeremy Lamb. The veteran guard is set to enter the final year of his contract after an injury-plagued season in 2021. Lamb averaged 10 points in 36 games for Indiana last season. So, when you look at it like this, he's an attractive name if he's able to overcome injuries, guys. But you also think about, and Dan, we haven't been able to talk to you about this, the other names that have popped up. You had Isaiah Thomas, you had Collison, you had Mike James, who was just recently with the Nets. What's your take, if you will, on these names, and what do you think the Lakers are looking to add?
I mean, I think when you're filling out the back part of your roster, for me, I think you should be taking swings. Like, this is where you can afford to miss, right? And I think if the price is right on a player like Jeremy Lamb coming off an injury, getting ready to go into a contract year, a guy who's been pretty productive in the past, player, that was a signing for Indiana when they signed him from Charlotte, I really liked. Turned out that they got a bunch of other guards, and it became kind of a logjam. Yeah, you got kind of a logjam position. But, that's another guy who can shoot the ball, who can create his own shot, who can score a little bit. There's a place for that on this roster. I think, especially like I said, this team wants to find offensive players. If I was filling out the back half of the roster, I'd probably find guys who I thought could guard. But, we're pretty far along in this process right now. You're not going to find, when you're looking for a 12th player or a 13th player on your roster, you're not going to find perfect fits.
Someone that has everything.
So find a skill you like,
okay,
and go do that. Whether it's on the ball defense, whether it's shot creation, whether it's being a good teammate and being just someone who's good in the locker room. Any of those things, I think, if you can fill one role with those types of things, that's how you make the most out of that roster spot.
Mike Trudell was on our shows last week.
I've never heard of him.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's on the Lakers sideline. You should check out their games from time to time. And he actually wants the Lakers to get a 3-and-D wing.
Of course.
And I don't think Lamb is that definition. His defense might not live up to the deep.
Bill Russell would be a good signing at this point, too.
He'd help, right?
Find him, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Is Kareem available? A 3-and-D
I do like him more than any of the names we did here last week. The Collison name, the Mike James name. I just feel like, and Isaiah Thomas, of course, I just feel like Lamb has played better more recently. Some of those guys took a year or two off, younger. So he does have that potential, but also he makes decent money. He's around $10 million. So the Lakers would have to really involve a third team to make something like this happen. They just don't have a lot of mid-range salaries. They just don't.
Not
to make
anymore.
Exactly. To make a trade like this work. If you had KCP still or Kuzma entering his first year of his $13 million a year extension, you could do this trade very easily. So Lakers would need some help.
But to be clear, those two players are definitely better than Jeremy Lamb.
100%.
And I think that's the thing is, and the Lakers had a lot of success at this 2 off seasons ago. I kind of use that when they got held up in the Kawhi Leonard sweepstakes and they were forced to sort of wait. I always thought back to when you see the grocery store on the East Coast when they're freaking out about some big storm that turns out to be nothing. They always they show the grocery store and the shelves are emptied, right? Yep. That's what Rob Pelinka shopped at 2 summers ago, and he was able to find useful players.
He always does.
Post market, he did a really good job.
Anything past.
Yeah, he did a really good job late in the game, and I think that's kind of where they're at right now with these last few roster spots. Is can they find a reclamation project? A guy like Darren Collison, who's been out of the NBA, is he in good enough shape to help them out? I think, he fits a need, certainly as a playmaker and as another guy who plays with pace. Do you wait to see if, a young player doesn't make a team out of camp? Do you look around at G League players? Do you look at a guy like Devontae Cacok, who I think, who as you're looking for size and stuff like that, do you want to keep him in your program? I think those are all kind of interesting options that they have. And I think Rob Pelinka's earned a little bit of faith and kind of how he's done when the pickings have been slim.
Best part about the show, we just spent 5 minutes talking about their 13th or 14th player on the roster.
Just pass
position to be in.
I know, just give it to LeBron. Who cares?
Them wanting and always utilizing that ability to have flexibility.
Sure.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
they love this position. It's something that he is familiar with. Yep. Really quick before we move on, Mark Stein reporting that Marc Gasol, Brez, we're going to talk about the big man.
Yes.
He is not a lock. What's our vibe on Marc Gasol? Though it sounded like he intended to finish out his contract during the Olympics when he spoke on it. But
I spoke to Dan about that.
That may not be the case. What's the vibe?
Yeah, I mean, the deal was, Marc Gasol is going to be 37 a handful of months from now, okay? He got some DNP, coach's decision, towards the end of last season, and he's got 1 year left on his contract, a very low number, $2.5 million. Maybe he wants to go somewhere else, try to get another contract after this upcoming season. Maybe, there was some word out there, he might just retire. So he's, that's why, Trudell did say he wanted the 3-and-D wing. I want another big man for this team, especially with reports that Marc Gasol might not be here in a month or so. Training camp's, 5 weeks away? They got to figure out one more 4/5. A guy maybe like Markieff Morris, obviously he went somewhere else, but I'm not sure Gasol is going to be back for sure.
I think players, especially players like Marc Gasol at his stage in his career, want to be wanted. And I think that's, when I talked to him in Tokyo, that's a real flex, by the way. When we spoke in Japan.
Felt good.
Yeah, that felt good. First of all, he was happy to see me non-zoomed, I think, too. It was like the first time as they right recovered him. He was like, you have a torso. And I was like, I do. I think the thing with Mark is that, he's a proud player. He wants to help. He wants to win. He wants to be a good teammate. The Drummond thing, I think, obviously was difficult on him. He said as much. It was not an ideal situation. I think in hindsight, maybe even a miss in terms of trying to put those guys together and figure it out. I think he can help, but it is, the direction the team's going. Do you need a slower, plodding kind of high IQ player, or do you need somebody a little more dynamic, or do you just need the roster spot? And I think, Mark's under contract.
Yep.
So, if he's, he's going to show up because that's what where he's supposed to be. The question is that where the Lakers want him to be? And I still think there's some question to that.
We will find out. We'll have our eyes on that. And other roster news, there's more. Jared Dudley is calling it a career. I want to cry.
No.
He tweeted this, man, what a ride. 14-year NBA career capped off by winning an NBA championship with the Lakers. Just want to thank God for blessing me. Also want to personally thank LeBron, Anthony Davis, Jeannie Buss, and the Laker organization. Without Bron and AD, I don't join the Lakers or win a ring. Dud's following up with this. I've been preparing for this moment for a long time. From deep talks with Nash, Hill, Shaq, Bron, Booker, Beal, AD, Giannis, the list goes on. Very excited to join the Mavs and Jason Kidd's staff. Perfect fit and opportunity. Time to get to work. There's more. LeBron was not pleased with the news. Before Dud's went official with his announcement, LeBron responded to a tweet from the Real GM posting these two. Congrats to my guy if this is true, which it probably is, but man, fill in the blank. Excuse my language, but this one hurt for many reasons that you wouldn't understand. Congratulations to Jared Dudley, but we are all speechless because, we love him in here. He's obviously a professional. He's a vet.
It's a tough one, guys.
He had the command of that locker room. This is actually no exaggeration.
One of the most energetic people I've ever covered in 17 years of being with the Lakers, and he's leaving us. I didn't get a phone call.
I know. I was just about to say that, too.
Yeah, we just talked to him a month or two ago. We didn't talk to him. We heard an interview with him where he wanted to come back, and he's got a great opportunity. This guy has coach or media written all over his post-playing future, and he's choosing the coaching route with a guy he's familiar with, Jason Kidd. So you cannot be that upset for him, but if he was just going to retire and go into the media, I'd be really sad unless it was with us at Spectrum Sportsnet.
He told me once he wanted to be the athletic director at Boston College. And it felt like, you could do that. You could kind of do that. He's such a personal person. I think what the LeBron tweet hints at is sort of, his value behind the scenes. Not just as a confidant of LeBron and Anthony Davis, but as a bridge between kind of the factions of the team, I think. And I don't say factions in a negative way, but you would see Jared Dudley during games talking, to Kostas Antetokounmpo, talking to Devontae Cacok, talking to Talen Horton-Tucker, kind of looking at and from conversations and sort of translating the superstar talk down to the younger players on the roster. Nobody understood sort of his role, I think, better than Jared Dudley. A full, just sort of a don't be a jerk type of life lesson to players is like, you can hang around this league and find yourself in good positions. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Key is to be a star in your role.
It's like, just if you're a nice guy and you're around and you're there to help, and Jared Dudley was that, and he will be missed deeply.
JK got a couple of good ones. Jared Dudley, Christy Tolliver.
Yeah.
Congrats to the both of you. Coming up, the Dodgers. They welcomed Russell Westbrook to LA over the weekend.
I don't know. What would it even be? It's not really a snapback. It doesn't really
We're going to dive into that in the D block later in the show. I do want to talk two of the Lakers stars.
Okay.
Not named LeBron James. So I want to focus on Russ and AD and how they fit together. Brez, how do you see it working?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see these guys, the energy that Russ brings. He's going to be pushing the pace the entire time. And AD is really one of the best rim-running big men in the league. He'll be ready for some pretty easy, fast breaks. The half court will be very interesting. I can see some pick and pops with AD. Very good mid-range game, of course. Definitely some pick and rolls, some alley-oops helping out AD there, or some easy buckets. I want to see more of that. AD shooting threes. He really got away from that towards the end of last season. But it is weird to talk about those two without LeBron, but that's kind of what I would envision.
So when LeBron and AD were paired together, Dan, that entire offseason, we talked about the pick and roll with LeBron and AD and what it was going to look like. Brez just mentioned the pick and roll. From day one with LeBron, it was glorious. Do you think it will be that way with Russ and AD? There's now another option.
Not necessarily the pick and roll, but I think the fast break has a chance to be glorious from day one. Brett said the word energy, right? It's with Russell Westbrook, it is pace. Like, this dude is a human embodiment of like 10 Red Bulls. Like, that's how he plays. I've written about him before in Oklahoma City. Like, he's like a muscle car with the brick strapped to the extended
like, right? He knows one speed.
Yeah, and I think that's contagious, and it should get everybody else running. Should get Anthony Davis running, and I think getting him into transition, easy buckets, keeping them out of the mid-range, which is a shot that they're all really comfortable taking, but it's a shot that you don't really want to have to take a lot. I think that'll be really important. Fast breaks with Russell Westbrook, the most important thing, I think.
Brez, when I think of Russ, he's had decent big men for sure. I mean, Steven Adams and his Cantor. He's had guys that are serviceable, and he does a nice job with them. He makes them look good. He gets them paid. But he's never had a guy like AD next to him. What does this do for Russ? How does it open him up?
Yeah, who really is the best big he's ever had? Serge Ibaka back in the OKC days? I mean, it's been a long, long time.
I mean, Kevin Durant's 7 feet tall.
Yeah, I guess he counts, as a 4. Yeah, definitely thinking like a 5 here, which I think we'll see more of AD playing. Yeah. This is huge for Russ. I mean, he's had great teammates, but they were very young in OKC when they had that triumvirate of those 3 guys. And this is like a very established LeBron, a better by the year AD, as long as he stays healthy. Really fascinating to see exactly what really Russ can bring out of AD. It's going to be really, really cool to see those guys together.
On the ball Russ, off the ball Russ, you're going to see really a hodgepodge of it all, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of the interesting thing with him, right? Is sort of like he's never had to be a complementary player. Like, he is his own sort of ecosystem, right? It is like a Russell Westbrook team has a very distinctive look because he kind of does everything. That's what he does so well.
Listen, Harden got his numbers.
Harden got numbers.
So did Durant. So did Beal.
Sure. He's very much a fill-in-the-gaps type of player, I think. It's just, I wonder, and I'm very interested to see kind of how he fits in sort of the gaps around LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Because every time that Russ shoots, like, and those guys don't, it's sort of like, how good of a shot is that? It's a really interesting question, and that's not to say Russ shouldn't get his, because he will. I just want to see him touch the game in a lot of different ways. I do think he'll be on the ball more. Hopefully, as a facilitator, sneaky, got to maybe lead the league in assists.
But hear me out. LeBron will also have the ball in his hands, so that means Russ is
second
off ball.
We're going to do multi-ball like pinball.
Yeah, he can't shoot a lot of threes. I mean, he has to realize, look, these guys are going to be attacking the basket a lot. He might have some open looks at threes. Keep the threat alive, but he doesn't want to take 7 or 8 threes a game. That's going to be the key for Russ.
Team got to leave him open, though, right?
For sure. It's kind of like when teams kind of sagged off Rondo several years ago when he was still with the Celtics, and Russ has to kind of resist that temptation, let guys like Ellington, Malik Monk, maybe even Kendrick Nunn, let those guys shoot the threes, because Russ is going to be staring at a lot of long 25-foot looks unencumbered.
Day one, LeBron, AD, great chemistry. Do you expect that to be the case when you add Russ in, or will it take time?
I think it'll take more time because of like we were just talking about. Yeah. You have 2 guys that are pretty ball dominant players, right? And we did see, if you want to look at Houston as sort of a template, that took a little time, and it actually helped when Harden went out. that Russ was able to kind of get his stuff going. I think that's the biggest thing, honestly, that you don't just have Russell Westbrook to play with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, is you have him to win those minutes when LeBron is off the floor. And that'll be the challenge for Russ, is can he be that version of himself, that dominant version when LeBron is on the bench, and can he be a little more complimentary when he's playing kind of with the normal starters? I think that's the biggest thing, and I think that'll take a little time. He
will be the third wheel, perhaps, for the first time in his career. I mean, you're talking about two guys who are, at this point, better and more consistent in their career than Russ. That doesn't mean he can't be a great 2 in some games, maybe even their best player in certain games.
Sure.
But can he, I think that's the key, can he say, all right, I'm not option 1, I'm not necessarily option 2, how can I handle option 3? I think a lot of people will be looking at that as the season progresses.
I appreciate being a part of the show. You guys
yeah, right.
Coming up,
what's that like, Keeter? Tell him to be the third option.
It feels great, actually. It feels like it's the role I was meant to play. All right, we're going to show you.
Chart as of now. Still some roster spots to be filled, some questions to be answered. As we mentioned, there is a report that Marc Gasol is not a lock to return next season. So, guys, Brez, I'm going to start with you. Which free agent are you looking, or do you think will have the biggest impact? We know what the big 3 is going to do.
Sure. I think Kendrick Nunn is going to be the guy who's going to surprise people. I feel like the Lakers really did a good thing by spending their biggest free agency tool, a $6 million spot for next season, on this kid. Keep in mind, just 2 years ago, he was second to Ja Morant in Rookie of the Year voting. I mean, he's got a really interesting career, played all 4 years. I think it was even 5 in college. He played a year in the G League with the Santa Cruz Warriors, the Golden State affiliate. And then, indeed, he jumped into Miami, 2 very productive seasons there. He's going to do a lot for this team.
I think it's THT, and I think Perez, you talked about using sort of your big chip.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing they did was they said that, Kalen, you're a part of our future.
Yeah.
And it has to be now. It just does. He projects as a guy who should make a difference on both sides of the ball. He's so long, he can disrupt passing lanes. They're going to need guys like that. I think he's a really interesting on-the-ball creator. I think as he gets more comfortable in decision-making, he has sort of the tools and the vision to be a really good passer. I think like the project label has to be off. I know he's still like a kid, right? Is he like 14 years old, 15 years old or something like
20.
that? But yeah, I mean, I think like he's got to help now. They chose him over Alex Caruso functionally.
I was going to say, they're not letting him go.
Yeah, like he was the guy that they said, we're keeping you. You are a part of this nucleus. And whether it's via trade or whether it's on the court, he has to matter to this organization fast because they don't have a lot of players sort of his age and his sort of ceiling. He's really unique in that way. And that's why I think he's the guy. I don't know that he'll be the biggest impact, but he has to be the biggest impact.
He's the one that I'm really excited to see kind of come to fruition because you think of it now, a full NBA season under his belt. What does that next season look like when teams know your tendencies, know what your strengths are? What did you do in the offseason?
That's the question.
To prove your value.
This is a good contract, too, by the way, I think, for the Lakers, getting him for about $10.5 million a year over the next 3 years. I thought he might go for a little bit more than that. Keep in mind, the average NBA salary is going to be about $9.5 million. So to get him for a little over $10 million, to me, that makes sense, especially when you think about what he did down the stretch, some decent playoff minutes, a couple pretty good late regular season games for this kid. He'll definitely help.
You get a follow-up.
I think Dwight Howard's the other guy.
Really?
I do. And I think we could talk a lot about Anthony Davis wanting to move over and play more center. He's never wanted to do it. Like, honestly, that's just not what he wants to do on a full-time basis. This is where Dwight Howard is a guy who I think over these last years has figured out that his job is to yell when he dunks and foul people a lot and play really hard in the interior and be a physical player. That role is going to be unchanged. There are minutes to be had, I think, at center on this team. I think he's won a title with them. Like, we've seen him perform in the postseason, and I think he is going to be a part of sort of their core rotation as they move forward in the season. It's kind of crazy to say. If his meeting with the media a couple weeks ago, a few days after he was signed, is any indication, I happened to be out there doing a one-on-one with him at the training facility. That's a good flex. Was it in Tokyo? He was complete. No, well, okay. you missed all that, right? Okay. He was completely ecstatic to be here. He was saying he wanted to learn how to shoot threes from Wayne Ellington. Can't wait to see that happen. But he seems really pumped to be back in L.A. after only a one-year absence. His third tour with the Lakers. You know who has a really nice three ball? Who's that? And I have never been more excited to facilitate and pass the rock to this man. Christopher McGee. Wow. Finally.
Kobe.
Yeah, it's
Good
He's
son's
back.
finest.
I got the jitters and everything. It's.
You look really nervous.
I covered the Olympics in China. Oh, wait, that's flex.
That's a good thing.
So, by the way,
wait.
Monday would have been Kobe's 43rd birthday, and in honor of 8/24 Mamba Day today, we look at the career of the late Laker great Kobe Bryant. Spent 20 seasons in the purple and gold, won 5 titles, 2 Finals MVPs, and basically holds every Laker record. Of course, Kobe had both his number 8 and 24 jerseys retired by the Lakers in December of 2017. Here's how they stack up against each other. Kobe spent 10 seasons wearing number 8, 10 seasons wearing number 24. He scored 89 more points as number 8. He also has 1 more chip as well. However, number 24 has 2 Finals MVPs and more first-team All-NBAs. Literally 2 Hall of Fame careers in 2 different jerseys. Now here's a special backstage look at how artists around the world have honored